very special guest joining us, none other than the leader of the leading layer one DeFi in our cryptocurrency space, Mr. Piers Ridyard. Rocco, let's bring him in. Piers, how are you doing, my friend?
How's it going, guys? I'm good.
Excellent. I'm David. The other gentleman behind there with Sin City Crypto is Robin, and then we have our friend Forrest joining us as well. What a day to have you on. Thank you so much for taking the time and joining us. How are you feeling today? Are you as excited as I am? I could literally feel every ounce of blood running through my body right now.
I definitely think that the crypto space is definitely taking one of those breaths where they're going, oh, it's maybe there's a route through. Maybe America's not as bad as we thought it was. Maybe this is the start of the next bull run. So yeah, it's definitely feeling very positive.
Absolutely. And Piers, as one of the leaders in our space, I do want to ask your opinion on this big XRP settlement. Do you agree that it's good for our space as a whole, whether you're in DeFi or NFTs, just as digital asset, crypto in general, this ruling, I've said it's going to be a landmark case that judges look to moving forward. Do you what are your thoughts on this, and how do you think this affects the markets, maybe Radix, the entire market in general?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the entire world is not America. And so I think that there is an impact on this because of how big the American market is. But obviously, if America was cut out of the entire crypto world, I don't think that means the crypto world ends. I just think that this ruling. So just to be clear, right? Like the Howey test is this case law that people have been talking about in crypto since basically people started doing ICOs, and the reason that they were talking about it is because of how broadly something can be considered to be a security under the Howey test. Because obviously the Howey test, Howey itself was a case law set around selling of orange groves. Obviously an orange grove isn't a security. However, deep in the base of that Howey was always the concept of the investment contract versus the thing itself, and you could say the thing itself isn't a security, but if it's packaged as an investment contract, then it can be, then the investment contract itself can be a security. But it doesn't make the thing a security inherently. And this is kind of what the case law is saying. I don't think it's actually changed what the Howey test actually said in the first place. But what Gary Gensler and the SEC have been trying to do is massively expand the definition of what a security contract is to then make the underpinning thing inherently a security as well. And this separation and going, no, a token is a token. It's a token. It isn't necessarily a security, isn't necessarily not a security. It all depends on how the thing is sold. And then the substance in this of going, if it's sold to institutional investors in a particular way within to Americans or within the American jurisdiction, then it's still considered that is an investment contract. But the token itself can be separated and thought of as a separate instrument. And if it's sold via exchanges, then it's not an investment contract. And so there's definitely some really interesting stuff that's coming out of this that I think is going to be really positive for differentiating in the industry when something is and when something isn't, and narrowing the scope under which something can be considered to be a security. And again, I want to emphasize this is in America. Every jurisdiction has its own rules and regulations around what is or is not a security. And actually, most jurisdictions are much less restrictive or much less expansive in how they define something to be a security in the first place. America is really the only place that has this concept of an investment contract, or one of the few jurisdictions that does. And so I think this ruling is going to make it a lot clearer on how you can do things in America. It doesn't actually make it that much easier for people who are thinking about launching, because it's very clear about the fact that if you're doing an ICO in America with Americans, then depending again on how that's structured, that could fall into being considered a security, at least with Ripple it is. But it's not saying that Ripple itself is a security, and I think that's really big.
What a great analogy.
Yeah, I'm just kind of floored here because I just now realize there's more than just America in this world. You know?
No way.
This whole time, no. A bit. So I want to say a big fan of Radix here. I did talk to some of your team members, and I know you. I was down at Consensus. Y'all had a big booth down there, and I talked to Hermes as well. I'm actually Portuguese, and their team's from Portugal, so we were chit chatting with them. But big fan of what you guys are doing. And I also when I was down there, I was talking about the Babylon upgrade a little bit, which I got a little insight into, but I figured it'd be a great time to perhaps let our viewers know, or let us know a little bit about what you guys got coming down the pipeline with Babylon. And for those of you that might not even have first time hearing about it, what should people expect with that?
Okay, so Radix, we built Radix because we believe that everything that is currently done in crypto for the everyday person is entirely unsuitable for the everyday person to actually use. Like, it's kind of laughably bad, the user experience of crypto, when it comes to, owning your own crypto, interacting with dApps, and these fraught with dangers. Like, even this week, people are talking about ERC20 hacks where they're using the approve function, and like people are constantly losing their private keys and all this kind of stuff. And we kind of looked at this and went, it's not actually the front end's fault. It's not MetaMask's fault per se. It's certainly not the user's fault, and it's probably not the developer's fault. Actually, what's at fault here is how the entire stack was built. And because Ethereum, when they created Ethereum, they didn't know what the main use cases for public ledgers were. They didn't know that DeFi was going to be such a big use case. DeFi is like 80% of the total usage of the Ethereum ledger, right? 80 to 90% of the usage of the Ethereum ledger. They didn't know that's what the main use case was going to be. So with Radix, we were like, okay, for this technology to go mainstream, it has to work for everyday people. And I always say there's three cardinal sins that crypto's made. The first cardinal sin is you have to know what a private key is to be able to use crypto. The second cardinal sin is the assets aren't native features of ledgers. And the third cardinal sin is that you can't review a transaction before you make it. Right. And those three cardinal sins mean that people are constantly losing their private keys. People constantly don't know whether or not they've received assets. I can send you a token and you can be like, where's my token? And it's like, oh, you have to go and add a custom contract because the wallet has no idea that token exists until you tell it the token exists, because the ledger doesn't actually know that the token exists and the wallet doesn't. Like, there's just this random stuff that doesn't make sense. And then from a review point of view, most DeFi interactions are, oh, I'd like to do this thing with Uniswap. Okay, I pick which things I want to swap. I click swap, and then it says sign this hash, and you have no idea whether or not those are the things that are going to work for you. Mm-hmm. So these all sound small for everyday people who use crypto all of the time, but for the mainstream, they're massive barriers, and that's why there's like a 10-to-1, 20-to-1 ratio between exchanges and as the user base of exchanges and the user base of crypto. People want to use crypto, but they're stuck on exchanges, and it's kind of like AOL. The exchanges are the AOL of the modern era. Like, AOL wasn't the internet, it was just like some services of the internet. And exchanges aren't really crypto, but they are the safe, fuzzy way in which everyday people can use it, because everything else is so terrifying. And Radix, we were like, we don't want that. We want everyone to be able to sovereignly interact with DeFi applications. We want everyone to be able to sovereignly own their own crypto without it being terrifying. And we want the Web3 world to actually be something in which we as individuals can go and explore it without worrying about getting hacked or scammed or things going wrong.
Or downloading a manual, right?
Right.
Downloading a 10-page manual.
Exactly. Right. So that's what Radix is. Radix is an entirely new stack from the ground up. It's our own consensus, our own execution, our own programming language, our own user experience, designed around the fact that we need to make this human.
And of course, there's so many new layer ones that come in, whether that's Avalanche or I'm not going to throw any more names out there, but they all hang their head on the same thing. We're fast to finality. We can have a lot of transactions.
We solved the blockchain trilemma.
We've solved the trilemma.
Every single one.
And so what it sounds like, what makes Radix stand out is the fact that you guys are trying to break down those barriers to entry. You are trying to make it more practical for users. And I guess is that kind of the reason why? I know you explained building it from the ground up, but you guys are one of the only, for me, recognizable DeFi projects that decided not to be an L2 on something already established like Ethereum or like Solana or any other layer one out there and do it from the ground up. Looking back at it now, of course, you know, it is more difficult, does take more time, does take more resources. Is there anything you would change, or are you still completely happy with the route you guys decided to take in building everything from the ground up?
Okay, so when I went through Y Combinator's got this saying, which is build something that people want. That's the entire saying of Y Combinator, and it's the main advice that they give, which is hilarious because it's literally their tagline. We before we built the tech stack we went and did a lot of work by going and interviewing people. We went and we'll talk to like 1,000 DeFi developers and DeFi projects and Web3 developers and Solidity developers. We went and did user interviews where we actually sat down and went through user flows with people for crypto and for crypto onboarding for interacting with these dApps. And it wasn't that we went out and we were like, cool, we just want to do something different. We think we're smarter. We just went out and we actually talked to the people who are trying to build stuff, and we talked to the people who are trying to use stuff. And without fail, everyone came back and went, this is awful. This is terrible. Solidity is awful. Like the amount of time that I spend trying to secure things versus actually writing functional code is awful. And still I wake up in cold sweats every night because I'm worried that I'm just like what I've put out there is going to get hacked. Right. And then from a user experience point of view, every single person that we brought in cold off the streets to try and use like MetaMask or whatever for the first time, like hilariously bad user experiences. And so we're like, that's the problem to solve. We have to build something that people want. People want the idea of crypto, but they don't want the reality of it because it's so bad. So we didn't set out and go, you know, we're smarter than everyone else, so we'll just start again from scratch. We started with, what do people actually need to be able to succeed? Because clearly DeFi is going to be massive. Clearly Web3 is going to be massive. But the biggest barrier to entry for people isn't speed. It isn't congestion. The very biggest barrier to entry, like every single project we spoke to, who was a big project, and we said, what's your number one problem, right? They've got like, this is height of DeFi summer. And, you know, transaction costs were like $200. And, you know, these companies have raised more money than they know what to do with. And you ask them what their number one problem is. They're not saying congestion. They're not saying speed. They're not like, oh, the trilemma. They're going, I can't hire enough developers. They're going, my bounce rate is 95%. Only 5% of the people who come to my website interested actually end up converting, right? Wow. Those are my problems. It's not freaking scalability. Right. And so that's why we chose to build a different stack, because when we actually analyzed how do you build a programming language that actually makes sense for Web3 and DeFi, how do you create an asset-oriented programming language? How do you make a programming language that is easy to get started with, but is really hard to make mistakes, is really hard to do security errors, is really hard to end up shooting yourself in the foot and making some error in logic that means that millions of dollars goes missing? How do you do that? That was actually, we've got to start again from scratch. We actually have to build a different programming language. Right. And every single VC that we spoke to, and we spoke to all of the big ones, right? Every single VC, they were telling us, you're crazy. Yeah. You should be copying the EVM. Yeah. You should be copying Solidity. It's already won. Yep. And we're looking at it and we're going, there are 25,000 full-time Solidity developers after 7 years and billions of dollars of funding. And you're telling me Solidity has won? Like, what are you talking about? There's 25 million developers, and crypto was a tech first innovation. So you think the developers don't know about it? You think they're just sitting on the sidelines and going, oh, that looks interesting, but I'm not going to get involved? Of course they're not. They've tried it and they've gone, no way, I'm not going to build here. So that's why we did what we did. That's why we took this different approach, because we realized that nothing that's out there would actually address these problems because they started from the wrong starting point.
I love it. I want to give our friend Forrest a chance to ask a question to you, Piers.
Sure.
Yeah. So from the product side, you building a better, more secure programming framework and better user experience, right? But there's so much competition in the space that you've got so many L1s targeting 45 billion in TVL, right? Trying to get their share of 45 billion in TVL. So beyond just the product, because I don't necessarily believe that in this space right now you can just build it and they will come, because essentially there's just so much competition.
Sure.
What is the differentiating factor? What's the strategy for attracting users, TVL, attracting, essentially getting Radix's share of the DeFi pie, or taking over the space entirely?
Yeah, it's a really boring answer, which is build a community of builders who are serious and support that community, as the number one thing you do. So, we launched the Scripto programming language 1.5 years ago. And the number of people who have tried Scripto has gone from 0 to over 15,000 in 1.5 years. And the reason for that is because we spend all of our time working on our developer community, our developer ecosystem. We don't pay people to come and build stuff on our platform. We don't have a huge, sort of foundation fund where we go, we're giving $100 million away, like Algorand did. $100 million, what they got to show for it. Like, it's the hard work of finding that small group of people who get it. They go, what you're doing is the right way of doing this, and then building on that kernel, and then making sure that you're helping them understand how to be successful building on your platform. But I don't mean by like how to build an incredible marketing campaign or how to shill your token, but actually how to build products that have real value, and do that by helping them every day, by being there every day. And we've built an incredible community. Like, again, like the people who have spent time in it, again, big VCs in the space who have spent time in our community say that it's pound for pound the best developer community in crypto, and we focus on that. And because you're asking, where do users come from? Users come from the fact that what is on your protocol is useful, is interesting, right? The majority of users come to Ethereum not because it's Ethereum. They come to Ethereum because Uniswap's there, because Aave's there, because Compound's there, right? So you focus on the builders who are going to build that innovation. And for us, Scripto, the thing that we wanted to achieve with Scripto was that Radix was your unfair advantage. If you're an entrepreneur and you choose to build on Radix, Radix is your unfair advantage. You get to get to market quicker. You have to worry less about security. You can hire cheaper developers, and you can build innovation faster than anyone else in the space. And so that's what we focused on. And, still to play out whether or not that works, whether or not that's the thing. And on the 27th of September, that's when Babylon goes live.
Yep.
But, 15,000 developers have given it a go. There's 50 projects that are going to go live. You guys met some of them out in Consensus. And they're not like just random people that we've paid to be there. They're people that have been in the Radix community for a long time and have been building here and are really understand what the advantage Radix represents to them for building interesting products in the space. And it's not an interesting answer. I get that. It's not like we're going to go sponsor the Miami Dolphins, or we're going to go sponsor we're going to sponsor the Formula One or whatever. But I think it's the only way that actual real shit gets built.
I want to end it on a more of a general question on where you think this space is going to go. You talk to some of the other founders of projects, some of the outspoken ones. They talk about how DeFi is going to change the world, banking the unbanked, a lot of the use case, the efficiencies of crypto and DeFi, and compared to the legacy systems that we have now. What do you hope to change in technology and fintech and finance and people that don't have banking services? What do you think is going to be the favorable outcome you achieve your ultimate goal, adoption?
Yeah, I mean, the global financial system, the assets in the global financial system is about $400 trillion, right? And then every single interaction that we have that is based on who we are, our identity, is currently, again, another probably $50 trillion worth of value in that, if you count all of the different ways in which we interact with services, from governments to Twitter to Facebook to all of this kind of stuff. And all of it is basically crap, right? That infrastructure in that the reputation I build on Facebook, I can't move across to Twitter, and the reputation I build on Twitter, I can't move across to Reddit. The money that I have in my pension, I can't see that in the same place that I can see where my credit cards are, or that I can see where my investments are. My mortgage rate is 2%, but my credit card bill is 20. My credit card is 20%. But even if I defaulted on my credit card, they come after my house. Like, all of these things that I represent my assets, what I own, who I am, and how I represent myself to the world is currently disjointed, dysfunctional, and we kind of accept it in the way that passwords suck, in the way that logins suck, in the way that finance sucks for everyday people, for the way that finance is completely disjointed, where there's no, like, everyone sort of sits there going, I think I'm paying too much for everything, but I can't really work out how I would pay less, right? Or I feel like I should be able to have more opportunities for my capital, but I really don't know where I get started, because it's so difficult to get through all of these different, like, hoops and understand what's out there in the first place. Like, the world of information has gone digital, fully digital, but the world of finance and the world of identity and the world of governance, when it comes to things like voting and your ability to have a say in a company, or your ability to have a say in a nation, isn't. So, like, what these platforms mean in the long run is all of that becomes as easy as booking a taxi through Uber, or sending a picture on Instagram. And like your financial universe is fully within your control and fully composable between all of the different products you have. Your identity is fully portable between every single portal that you interact with. There's no such thing as passwords. There's no such thing as logins. Everything is based on cryptography, but in a way that's completely convenient for you. And so you're able to increase security, increase convenience, and increase your ability to access the financial tools and services that you want in a way that feels right when we compare it to what we get in Web 2 for everything else.
Awesome, man. Wow, Piers, what an amazing, I don't want to call it an interview. I want to call it a conversation, because I felt like it was more of a conversation. It was an absolute pleasure having you on here. Your community is strong. I see tons of people here that I've never seen that are from the Radix community. And so we first and foremost want to thank you so much for your time. Again, it was truly a pleasure. Any parting thoughts you want to leave us with before we let you go?
Parting thoughts? Well, just in general. I don't know. Caviar's overrated. What do you want as a point?
I agree.
Isn't there a Dex named Caviar on?
There is.
No, there is a project. So Caviar 9 is definitely not overrated. Parting thoughts. I think that the Ripple case is really interesting. It's going to mark a watershed, but it's not the end of the fight. So, like, I think that we still have to see what's coming out of Coinbase, the Coinbase case, and the other sort of things that are going on in America in the courts right now. But I think that this is a really good point to start to feel more confident about crypto. And my parting thought is, if you were thinking about getting into crypto and you weren't sure, now's the sign that you need to go and learn how to program crypto so you can come build in the Radix ecosystem.
Boom! Mic drop. Piers, again, thank you so much. We look forward to having you on again in the future, my friend. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we look forward to talking to you soon. Take care.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.